Hello everybody, Anna Brownwoods here. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing fantastic today. I am recovering from a caffeine deficit and it's going okay. It's self-induced. But what are we going to talk about today? Today is going to be a very important topic. It is about feedback. If you're here, you want to say hi, I'd love to see ya. Say so. Let me know where you're visiting from. But also, take your time to actually give me feedback and comment, because I love it when you guys actually, let me know what's happening, because then I actually review your comments in real time and I can see what's going on. Anyways, so this is what is kind of interesting. Feedback. A lot of people, when they get feedback from clients on their e-learning work, they take it the wrong way and it actually hurts them. It doesn't hurt the client, it maybe hurts the client, but it hurts you. Let me tell you how it hurts you. So I'm gonna give you a really solid example I just saw online the other day. Somebody posted about how, basically this was a question, and I'm not gonna name the person because whatever. They said, okay, so what would you do with this? I got this feedback from this client. The first thing they said is, I love this is great work. And then they proceeded to give me basically a page worth of ways to improve the, feedback on the content and scripting and everything, right? How would you take this? And I was like, well, that's awesome. I would take this like, first, this person obviously understands the Toastmasters sandwich technique, which is give great feedback first and then give them, feedback about what they need to improve. And then you finish off with, something else that's really awesome. Because one of the things that we realize when we're giving feedback in Toastmasters is that people are sensitive. Right? I mean, you're publicly critiquing them. But what's amazing to me is to see people who are professionals, who want to be professionals, who want to get to the next level, and actually have clients who want to collaborate on projects, want to give them feedback, actually read the things that they're putting out there and give them feedback, and they take it in a way that damages that relationship. So let me tell you an experience that I had. And it's funny because we kind of, sometimes we got to get consistent about what we want, right? Because the pendulum will swing. And I hear people complaining about how clients are unresponsive, they take forever to give feedback, and if they do, they just, they didn't really read it or skimmed it, right? So that, or they're just quiet and they don't care. Then you have full autonomy, but then you just feel like you're the only one who cares about the project, right? And that happens. Those happen to me. The crickets suck, right? Because you really want to know, is this, are we moving in the right direction? All those things, that's very, very important. But then there's the other side of the pendulum, where if you spend way too much time getting that baby built, right? You spend way too much time ideating on things and refining them before getting the feedback. That's why a lot of times when you send it off, you're almost like you have that sinking gut feeling like you're gonna throw up, because you're like, I can't, what's gonna come back, right? I've already invested so much time in this. And I gotta tell you guys, the statistic out there is that there's all these people who develop e-learning who never launch part of their creative things because they've spent so much time nurturing their little beautiful baby e-learning idea that they don't want the world to see it because they're scared of getting feedback, right? Crazy, right? That's what happens. That's nuts. But let's go back to that situation where you get a lot of feedback. One of the things that I feel like has really affected me in the past, and I've been doing this for over a decade, right? And as somebody who's built a ton of e-learning and collaborated with a lot of teams, one of the things that happens is if you're good, you try and get a lot of feedback, right? You're constantly asking for it, and it's an iterative process. You realize that there's not one person who can come up with an idea and it's perfect right off the start. In fact, as you know, all of the ideas start off with this, my concept. And then as I collaborate with subject matter experts, illustrators, copywriters, developers, this thing morphs into something way cooler than I would have ever imagined, right? But you can't do that if you think that your idea is the best right off the start. And one of the things that'll happen is if some of the things that we get are tedious, pain in the butt stuff that may not be really helpful, right? It's coming from people who are doing their best with the knowledge that they have about what we're trying to achieve, right? And if you take that feedback as a way that somebody's trying to hurt your project instead of help your project, and if you start mentally telling yourself stories about that person that are not positive, which happens, you will sabotage that project or any future collaboration with that person. You may tell yourself that you've let it go, but just because you're not saying things out loud, if you're saying things in your head, it will affect your project, because how you think is a lens of how you look at the world and how you will respond to those people, whether you will be as enthusiastic, whether you will be as grateful, whether you will be as proactive, whether you'll reply as quickly, whether you'll try to wow them. All those things will be affected because you've now decided that this person is no longer a friend, they're your enemy, and they're trying to sabotage your amazing ideas. How many of us think that in projects? It's so tough. But you have to really start, anytime you get feedback, think of the opposite, right? Think of the opposite that could happen. Nobody looks at it, crickets. Isn't that even worse? Tree falls in the forest, nobody hears, right? Didn't happen. What you want is people actively looking at your work, giving you feedback, refining it. Does that mean that every time you get feedback, you got to be like, okay, well, they thought this, I guess I'm going to have to implement this. And I feel like that's when I work with people, sometimes they'll put something out there and they'll get feedback that is either highly critical or it's really coming from a place of somebody who doesn't understand what we're trying to achieve. So they'll just throw their hands up in the air and be like, well, look at them. They don't get it. They don't get me. I have a vision. It doesn't work like that. You're putting something out there. 9 times out of 10, the things that we're doing in our community, they're interactive stories. Nobody knows what the heck you're talking about when you mention that, right? When you're going to put it out there, people are going to be freaked out and afraid. Why? They don't want to look stupid, right? They're protecting themselves. They're like, I have no idea what you're doing here. I'm just going to tell you based on my probably academic education, me being told basically content dumps all day. This is what I think e-learning is. And I'm going to give you feedback from that lens, right? So a lot of times the feedback that's going to come back is, it's not going to be savvy. That's okay. Find the jewels, find the context that they're giving you, and then push back. Be okay with pushing back. One of our students, she recently got some feedback, and some of it she could see was really just the context that she was missing that she needed. But then there was one thing that they came back on, and she's like, listen, I'm crafting an interactive story, and there's certain things in a character and in scenarios, elements that simply make it work, and there's a reason why I'm using it. She says, I'm going to push back hard on this one. So there's things that you have to say, these are things I'm going to push back on. And then it's like good bargaining, right? You come up to the store says, how much is this? And you could say, okay, well, would you take $250, right? You might come back. You don't just settle for the first thing they throw out there. You can negotiate and educate and talk through. One of the things that really works for me when you're getting feedback is people don't necessarily expect you to implement everything that you've given them. And I used to do this. I'd be like, oh, look, there's 25 comments. All of those are changes. No, I'm looking at them with a critical eye. And one of the things I always do is now I acknowledge the feedback. That doesn't mean I'm going to, put it all in, because structurally and from the design perspective, they might not know what the big vision is. If context is off, if the words are off, I am going to definitely take that in. But if you're telling me how to design a scenario, or if you're trying to tell me how a character transforms from beginning to end, I'm going to push back on that, because that's where my expertise lies, right? So those are the things you want to do. You want to look at everything as somebody is bringing you back some more information, and then they're asking you to not just lie down and take it. They're asking you to say, okay, what can you do with this, right? Because the end result is going to be synergy, a collaboration of both of you, right? Just, oh yeah, we worked it out. Sometimes it's not sexy, sometimes it hurts. So one of the things that, I always want to tell people is that, and Pam, so glad to have you here. It's hard because sometimes you gotta reflect on these things. We're so busy these days, it's hard to reflect on your work and your practices, right? But one of the things that I found is if you're consistently coming up against the same issues over and over and over and over again, then it might not be necessarily that the world is against you. It might be that you're the common denominator and your approach needs to adjust, right? If you're always getting clients to work with you that just want it fast and cheap, well, maybe it's because you're showing them in your portfolio things that are fast and cheap, and you're going on fast and cheap, and then you're saying everybody's fast and cheap. Well, no, that's kind of like what you put out there is what you attract, right? So if you're constantly struggling with your subject matter experts, you're finding them very, very difficult. Maybe what you're doing is upfront, you're not setting up that relationship with them to say, this is my domain, this is my expertise. And for us to move forward, I expect that there's going to be some collaboration, and you're going to willingly listen to my suggestions and ideas because that's what you hired me for, right? A lot of people start these relationships already in this I'm going to be your servant kind of situation where the client is not either they don't think you can contribute, or they're not feeling like you're showing up to the table with the ideas that they need to see. And it is about establishing that credibility up front, right? Because one of the things I've done before is you let a project kind of just go, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, this is going the wrong direction. And then you try and jump in, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, no. We've been running the show, we decided what to do. All of a sudden for you to step up and be like, no, this is wrong. It's kind of too late, right? And guess what? Those will happen. Sometimes you don't even know the train's going this way, right? But that's one of the things I want you to think about is at the very beginning in these relationships, establish these kind of, I'm not saying be some sort of a rule, enforcer, but establish that it's a peer-to-peer relationship. You're not like the subservient person there. You're coming in with all this awesome knowledge and innovation, and you've been looking at all this awesome stuff online, and you've been building, right? That's huge. So you come in with that expertise that they don't have. Most of our subject matter experts are only aware of what they did in basically traditional schools, which is, just epic content dumps with no context. Of course, they're going to come back with that to you, right? So, so if you're interested in taking yourself to the next level, but you are open to feedback, you understand it'll take time, right? And you're willing to be vulnerable, but you're also willing to build like a crazy person and just be like, okay, I'm going to iterate, ugly, but getting there. If that sounds like you, if you want to do that and you want to get yourself your own interactive story or start introducing interactive storytelling into your own organization, I would love to talk to you because I'm looking for a few more good people to join our community. And the call is free. Don't worry about it. But it's really just for us to figure out where you're at and if I can help you. All right. So have a wonderful rest of the day. I hope this was helpful. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. If you did, then hit the like button because then, it helps the algorithm move it up to where other people can see it as well. All right. So I hope you have a fabulous rest of the day, and I will probably see you here tomorrow or on our strategy session. Go for it. Bye.